very informal, but it's just a great opportunity for you to introduce yourself and explain a little bit about your role and really just give an update. All these, oh great, I can see you now. There's no sort of, we don't expect anyone to do PowerPoint presentations. It's really just a chat. Everyone really finds that useful, just a general update about how things are going and kind of referrals to your service, things like that. So that's what we're kind of looking for. So if you'd like to just have a chat, that'd be lovely.
No problem. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll just tell you guys a little bit about who we are, and then maybe I'll hand you over to Alan, who can tell you a little bit more about what the sort of local meetings. So I'm Dan Ware. I'm a director of Dual Diagnosis Anonymous, and Alan Butler is my fellow director. And we basically set up Dual Diagnosis Anonymous in 2016, and it already exists in America and is very popular on the west coast of America, where they get about 4,000. They have about 100 meetings sort of going in Oregon on the west coast of America. They have about 3,000 people coming to meetings per month over there. And to cut a long story short, basically, we really liked the service they were offering over there, and got their permission to set up Dual Diagnosis Anonymous over here in the UK. So we're 12-step fellowship, but we're a 12 plus 5-step fellowship. So the 12 steps, as you probably already know, address the sort of addiction side of the dual diagnosis. But the additional 5 steps were devised by Corbett Monica, who was the founder of DDA, as we call it. And he was dually diagnosed himself. He was a practitioner in the field, in prisons and in mental health services. So he had a lot of experience himself, and he devised the additional 5 steps which address the mental health aspect of a dual diagnosis. They're very simple 5 steps. Basically accepting you have a dual diagnosis, accepting the need for medications when required. And what a lot of people don't know is that in some of the other fellowships, the use of medication is in some quarters kind of viewed as still using drugs. We don't view it like that in DDA. We sort of believe in a sort of holistic approach to someone's dual diagnosis. So it would be medication, support from other agencies, support from family members and friends as well. So we do allow, if with the person's permission, they are allowed to come along to a meeting with their key worker, or with a family member, and we do have quite a lot of family members who do attend our meetings as well. We've actually been running meetings in Ealing for about 4 or 5 years now, but obviously due to the pandemic, we had to go online. All our online meetings are on the website, which I can share with you guys, but we have about 5 online meetings a week now, which are accessible to everybody. But we do have a small little bit of funding from Ealing Council to run meetings in Ealing. So I'll let my colleague Alan talk about the Ealing meetings, if that's all right, Alan.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. But before I speak about the Ealing meetings, I think it's only fair that I give you a little bit of background of who I am and why I'm involved with DDA. Right, and who I am is I'm a guy who suffered with mental health and drug addiction for more than 3 decades, from 32 years actually. Right, and I made my recovery in 2009, and at that point, I would never have accepted that I had mental health issues. Right, I always believed that my addiction caused my mental health issues, that it wasn't the other way around. right? That, you know, it was because I took so many drugs, I drank so much, right? That caused my mental health, right? But today, standing from where I stand now, right, I don't see it like that. I see that what actually drove all my addiction issues was my mental health. Right, I was completely unhappy with myself. I was completely unhappy being within my own skin. Right, and this was the driver. Right, this was what made me feel so uncomfortable in this life. Right, and to such an extent that I needed to escape in some way, and drugs and alcohol was the way, right, that I could escape this life, right, and that's what I did, right. It wasn't hedonistic for me. It is for some people. For some people, you know, they entered into drugs and alcohol because they was seeking some kind of pleasure, right, but it was never that. Not for me, right. It was always that I was just seeking oblivion, really. Right? I just wanted to make the world go away. I didn't like the world. I didn't like my life. Right? I didn't like either things. Right? I felt like I was the person trapped inside, and trapped inside a life that I never asked for. Right? And that was what really drove all my drug taking. But I didn't realize that. Right? I thought it was, I don't know, just something that people did, and I just got so involved with my drug taking and my drinking that I never really tried to understand what was driving it until I got clean and sober, right? And when I got clean and sober, right, I did through the fellowships of AA, NA, CA, right? DDA did not exist at that time, right? You know, there was only the fellowships of DDA, NA, CA, right? And they were they were a 12-step program, right? Which kind of focused on the mental, focused on the addiction side of the dual diagnosis. There was no emphasis, right, on mental health. Right, and then when Dan went over to America, and he met Corbett Monica, the founder of DDA, and he came back, right, and he came to me because I'm a peer, right. Dan's a professional, right, but I'm a peer, right, and I'm someone in recovery. And Dan came to me and he said, Alan, right, I've come across this program in America. It's fantastic. It kind of basically, right, revolves around the 12 steps, but there's an additional 5 steps, right, which focus on the mental health. So I was really interested and really intrigued, right, and he explained a little bit more. He said, I went to a couple of the meetings and they were so powerful, right, and people can actually share, right, about their mental health. They can share about their struggles with medication. They can share about their struggles with the side effects of medication. They can talk about all this stuff in a forum that previously did not exist, right? Because in the single purpose fellowships of AA, NA, CA, all those, they don't welcome talk about mental health. And I completely understand that. I completely understand that their primary purpose and their primary objective, right, is to carry the message to the still suffering alcoholic, still suffering addict, right? So any talk of mental health, side effects of mental health, struggles with, any kind of medications and stuff, it wasn't welcome. So they closed themselves down in them meetings. They never actually spoke about their mental health, right? They self-stigmatized, in fact, right, and never ever spoke about it. And I knew that this just wasn't, it wasn't helpful to many people. I knew that the kind of cohort of people out there suffering from dual diagnosis, suffering from mental health coupled with an addiction issue. And that addiction issue can be all encompassing. It can be from overeating to drugs and alcohol to sex addiction, right? It doesn't matter. It's an addictive take on your personality, coupled with a mental health condition. And mental health can be all encompassing too. It can be anything from self-diagnosed, I'm quite depressive, right, or I'm quite anxious, to I'm paranoid schizophrenic with a clinical diagnosis. So it's a very, very broad umbrella, right? And that kind of cohort of people needed to be addressed, because the one thing that works in fellowship is identification, long before the program ever does, long before the 12 steps ever kicks in, right? You're attracted by the identification with others. And that was denied to people with a dual diagnosis, because they would attend AA, NA, CA, and they would suppress themselves and not talk about their mental health, right? Whereas in DDA, it's an open forum, and you're able to speak about those issues. So you get the identification with others, right? That was previously denied, right? So it's been amazing, right? This journey since Dan came back from America, right, and explained to me about DDA, and we've been attempting to get this off the ground here, right? It's just been an amazing journey, right? And my honest testimony, right, is that people that attend, right, they're just so liberated to be able to find identification with others, right, which they can in the rooms of DDA, which they can't in other fellowships. That's not to knock other fellowships. That's just to say that it doesn't happen. Right? It really doesn't. Not in single purpose fellowships. Whereas in DDA we are open to that, and that identification with others is something that really helps.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, Alan. Really interesting, and thank you very much for sharing your journey so honestly with everyone. Yeah, it sounds amazing. So first of all, has anyone got any questions for Dan or Alan?
By the way, Alan, I think is your camera off?
I don't know, is it?
I think your camera's off, Alan. Yeah. I know you're not. I know you're not shy. So he's not shy. So he's
I'm not usually.
Sure, people.
I
no.
I don't know. I don't know how to turn it on.
Oh,
okay. See if I can turn your camera on. But I see Latvia from Each has got a question. Would you like to go ahead?
I do. Thank you. Can I first of all say that was just simply superb listening to that, and very, very powerful. And I really want to say thank you for sharing that story, your journey, because I think it just goes to show that I think, oh gosh, I'm taking a bit of a breath here about it really all. I think it's just highlights so much for me actually in terms of kind of where we are in being able to support people who don't fit, if you like, a single issue, or don't fit kind of service that's an offer. And really, I think there's actually a lot more that we can do and need to do. But first of all, I just want to acknowledge your story, really. And then to add to that, I think we offer some space, don't we, Daniel, for a DDA group?
You do.
At our premises. And I know you said you've gone online, but I just wanted to let you know that we are actually now back on the premises and looking at reopening on the days that you used to be on our site. And we would really welcome to have you back in, and because we're also looking to open on those evenings to support rough sleepers as well, rough sleepers with a substance misuse. So I think there may be a bit of synergy there as well. So let's get in touch in terms of how we can make that happen sooner for DDA group and people that you're seeing as well. And I think I have a wider question really. Do you think that it's still the same after all these years of where we've tried to address people as people rather than as an issue? Do you think that we are still, where are we with that? or is it that we have services that deal just with mental health, and we have services that just deal with addictions, and we have services that just deal with domestic abuse or whatever it is? Is there a change that you've noticed over the years, or what do you think we need to do more of?
Well, I think you raise very, very pertinent points, right? And peer support is the way, right?
Okay.
You know, absolutely, peer support is the way. I work as part of a multidisciplinary team, right? And the one arm of that team that is coming to the fore, right, is peer support, right? You know, people really warm to others who have recovered, right? I worked in a detox unit for 5 years, right? And me being part of that detox unit, the detox unit where I actually got clean, right? I actually got sober in that detox unit, right? And then for me to work there, right, you know, and to exhibit that recovery is possible, right? And then I only had to work on, right, that I'm not special, right? I'm not a special person, right? I made recovery because I had hit my rock bottom, right? And I was prepared and willing to do whatever it took, right? And that kind of inspiration that's given from somebody else in peer support, right, is something that we're only beginning to cash into now, right? You know, the services are only beginning to realize just how valuable peer support is, right? In inspiring others, in encouraging others to keep going, right? It's just so valuable. So I place my eggs in that basket. Right? I really believe that peer support is the way forward.
And just to add to Alan, I would also add one thing that a lot of people who come to our meetings say is that what they really like about the meetings is they can openly talk about their mental health, and their substance use at the same time, like Alan was talking about before. But that is repeated over and over again by newcomers who are kind of like, it's almost like a revelation that they found this place where they can just talk openly about their mental health and their substance misuse with like-minded people. Like, it's the common theme that comes out. So I mean, Alan works in the NHS. I work in the NHS as a dual diagnosis worker, and my background is in homeless services as well, which I kind of forgot to say. Like, for me personally, in many ways, I think a lot hasn't changed, unfortunately. It's still siloed, you know. I'm preaching to the choir here, I'm sure, but I feel services are very, very siloed. But like, and this is why we started DDA. Basically, this was mine and Alan's sort of reason for it, because we knew there was this service gap, basically. So we're very slowly trying to build an empire.
Caroline, you've got your hand up. Do you want to ask your question?
Talking to me, sorry. Yeah. Hi everyone. Do you know, I only just came in on the back of that, and it really made my heart, it really pierced my heart, that testimony. It's just such a beautiful revelation of who you are, Alan. And it's just beautiful, and I'm so happy that you guys have actually raised this and have got this in a service. Do you have that service in Ealing, did you say? Have you set it up in Ealing?
Yeah, we do.
We began in Ealing, right?
Okay.
Because well, because basically because I live there, right? And Dan lives there. So when Dan came over from America with this, or works there, sorry.
Yeah.
When Dan came back from America with this idea, right, we needed to get it off the ground somewhere, right? And West Ealing was where we centered. We went to the commissioners. We went to the commissioners for mental health, and the commissioners for addiction services, right? And that was our very first success, actually, right? Because we know that those two services are normally polar opposites, right? You've got the mental health who say, oh, we can't deal with that person because they've got addiction. And then you've got the addiction services that say, oh, we can't deal with this person because they've got mental health, right? And everybody falls between the gap. So you've got these two services that are polar to each other, right? And we sat them round a table, right? And we said, listen, let's get real, right? You know, what is the elephant in the room, right? The elephant in the room is mental health coupled with addiction, right? And nobody's addressing it. Everybody's denying these people service, right? You know, and this is just so wrong, right? You know, so we knew that service provision was awful, right? We knew that there was this massive cohort of people who was kind of not receiving any support, right? Because they were falling between the gaps and everybody was like pushing them to one side or the other side. And actually no one was taking responsibility for them, right? You know, so we knew there was a massive need for such a service. And the 12 steps plus 5, right? The plus 5 makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Right. The plus 5 is what allows people to open up about their mental health, right? Whereas they can't do that in a single purpose fellowship, right? In AA, NA, CA, any of those single purpose fellowships, they feel right that they're not in the right place, right? To be able to speak openly.
Yeah.
Right, and especially to get any kind of, because what we in DDA we welcome is considered cross sharing in a single purpose fellowship, right? But we welcome feedback, right? Only positive, of course, not negative. Right? You can't destroy anybody, right?
No.
But if you've got something positive to say to that person, and that person asks for that feedback and says, I would welcome some feedback, and they open themselves up. So questions and answers and positive feedback is given inside the meeting. So someone can say, I'm really struggling with this medication. Does anybody have experience around this? And then someone can say, actually, I was on this for a long time, and they have the option to feed back positively to that person, and that really makes a difference. Right? You know, that really.
Thank you, Alan. That's amazing, and thank you so much for being so honest and really being an advocate. You know, you really have been an advocate and raised the voice of people who are dual diagnosed. It's amazing, really great. Thank you.
I think you've got your hand up. Do you have a quick question? I'm just aware of time. Obviously, it's so interesting, and it's great that Alan's being able to share. Have you got a quick question, Kelvin?
Yeah, I was going to ask how to point people in your direction, but I'm getting a lot of the info in the chat right now, so that's great. But the other thing I was kind of wondering about, and I don't know if this is going to be too long a conversation right now, but I'm just kind of interested in what you're saying about you know, how services are quite siloed, and just wondering what your kind of vision or hope would be in how to overcome that, really.
You know,
yeah, these things do go hand in hand, don't they?
Kelvin, to be honest, right, I have very little hope, right, very little, because it would take a massive influx of money, which just is not available, right? So professional services are just not going to cater to this problem. They're going to push it out to peer support, right? You know, because they can't do it, right? You know, at very best, this is what happens. At very best, if a service has got any money left over at the end of the year, right, they will look at their finances and go, okay, we're okay, right? Let's hire a dual because they know the elephant in the room, right, is dual diagnosis. So they'll say, well, how are we going to address that? Okay, so maybe we should get a dual diagnosis trained clinician. All right, that seems like a great idea. Great idea. It is, right? So they bring in a duly diagnosed, trained clinician, someone who's going to be empathetic and understand what's going on with their clients. But the limitations are that you're only going to see them every 2 weeks, if you're lucky. If you're lucky, right? So you go to see this lovely, duly diagnosed, trained clinician, right, once every 2 weeks. And then you go there for an hour and, all right, you feel really understood. This person really understands me. Fantastic. How great. And then I'm not going to see them again for the next 2 weeks. What we intend to be, Dual Diagnosis Anonymous, is something that supports people in between those appointments, right? Because there's a whole 2 weeks, right, where that person is just left, right? You know, so what we intend to do, what we try to do, is be supportive in a peer way by coming together as a collective, right, and supporting each other, right, and saying that, okay, your appointment's not till next week, but we have a meeting tomorrow, and we have a meeting on Wednesday, and we have a, right, come to us. And we intend to prop people up and support them in between what the professional services can do, which is very limited, right? Is very limited at the moment. There's just not the money around, right, to tackle this problem, right? This problem is huge, right? And if you really wanted to tackle it, you'd have to throw lots of money at it, right? And there's just not the money around. So I don't see any answer coming from the professional services other than we're going to employ a duly diagnosed clinician, right? And we're going to incorporate them, and they're going to become part of our MDT. So you can tick all the boxes, right? And you can say, oh yeah, we're addressing this, but are you really? Not really, right? Not really addressing it at all, but you're making it look like you are, right? And that's kind of how I see professional service approach.
So Alan and Dan, it's really interesting conversation, and I'm wondering, could you come back to another meeting? As I say, these run every month. I'd love to keep discussing this more, and I'm sorry that I'm going to have to kind of move on.
No, that's okay.
But it's such an interesting conversation. So thank you ever so much for joining today, and it'd be great if you could join future ones, because I love to keep this sort of conversation going as well.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Toby, and hopefully you've got all the information on the chat about where the local meetings are and stuff.
I do, and I'll share it. What I do after these meetings, I just edit the video for people who weren't able to join, and I circulate all the information, so I'll make sure that everyone's in the loop.
Fantastic. The next Ealing meeting is Saturday at 2 p.m. run by Alan.
Okay, well, I bet it's going to be a meeting then. So,
thank you.
Francis, would you like to tell everyone about, first of all, welcome, and I know you were signposted to this meeting from Hounslow Mental Health Forum. You knew someone who attended that. So first of all, welcome, and would you like to introduce yourself and tell everyone about the initiative you're setting up?
Hello, yes. I don't know, I don't seem to have a name. I'm not very good with tech, so maybe you can see my name. I can't see my name, but my name is Frances Dalton. I've lived in the borough of Ealing for over 30 years, 33 years, first in Southall, then in Ealing. My background is in practice nursing, well, in nursing generally and midwifery, but latterly in practice nursing for quite some time. And I have always had an interest in mental health, partly for personal reasons. My mother struggled throughout her life. I have a daughter with a long-standing history of eating disorders, which is ongoing. And of course, in my work as a nurse, I have seen many people struggling with mental health issues. I am technically now retired as from March, although I still run a diabetes clinic once a week, and I'm involved with mentoring new nurses coming into community, into practice nursing. So just that's a little bit about my background, to put it in context. The other thing to say is that one of my frustrations throughout my working life has been that you have such a limited time with the patient in front of you, usually to perform some practical skill. And often, you know, they will bring up things that they need to talk about, and there just isn't the time. And sometimes they need to be signposted elsewhere. Sometimes they just need a listening ear. And I have frequently wanted to give them more time and been unable to. And I think my colleagues would say the same thing, you know, that the health service, as everybody knows, is so overloaded. And sometimes that can come across as us being uncaring, lacking concern. And in most cases, I hope that's not the case. But it may look that way from the other side because of the pressure we're under. So I have felt a particular burden for people coming out of lockdown, because I'm aware how much lockdown has, and I think we're all aware, has impacted on people's mental health. Although many people have existing problems, I think they've been compounded by lockdown. And now there are a lot of people who, we found this with patients, who are actually quite scared to come out, are quite isolated, are quite lonely and alienated. And that has been on my heart for some time. And a few months ago, I was introduced to a charity called Renew Wellbeing. This was set up in Nottingham about 6 years ago. And basically, a church took it on themselves to set up a cafe, their strapline being a quiet shared space where it's okay not to be okay. So just a drop in, really, nothing very high powered, not complicated, very simple, but a place where people can just come and feel supported, find a listening ear, and just know that people care, really. There's not much more to it than that. There are sort of three elements to this whole thing that was set up and is now taking off around the country. And one is just being present, being there for people, being available, doing things together. Maybe, you know, somebody brings a hobby, shares a hobby, teaches it to others. Something very simple. You might have a cup of coffee over a table and be just looking at a jigsaw together. But while you're doing that, talking, while you're doing that, listening. And there's very much a sense that it's not an us and them situation. It's very much we're all in this together. We don't talk about volunteers and service users. We talk about hosts and regulars. This is about people sharing experience. Nor can we offer a counselling service because we're not qualified counsellors or mental health workers. But one of the other elements is to be working in partnership with mental health services, very much being able to signpost people that need signposting if they need that extra support. So we're an open door, but we're not trying to provide therapy as such. And so I was really interested in what Alan was saying, because I think, you know, our church where I'm based is a centre for many, many things, including AA, funnily enough. And I was just thinking, oh, I was looking at the Uxbridge Road. They meet in West Ealing, they meet in Shepherd's Bush. We're about halfway between the two. Wouldn't it be great if they could have another dual diagnosis centre where we are? So it's about just being a place where people can come. And there's also a sense that, you know, we're somewhere that people can signpost to us as well. So I've already been in touch with Caroline, who was here earlier, one of the social prescribers. And the social prescribers, fantastic resource, because they are supporting those people, often who the GPs know need extra input. And they, you know, can also signpost to whoever's out there. And I think that it's great to see so many new initiatives setting up. And I think there's going to be space for everyone because the need is so great. So it's about being present, being in partnership. And the third element with us, because we're unashamedly, we are Christians, we are church-based, is prayer. Now, that's not to say we pray with people or we want to make people feel uncomfortable. This is meant to be inclusive, open to everyone of all faiths and none. But there is a protected area, a quiet space attached to the cafe where people can go for prayer and meditation if they want. But it's totally no compulsion, no pressure. It's there, take it or leave it. So that's basically the three elements. And the charity that this is part of has tried to work around the 5 ways to well-being, which were identified by the new Economic Foundation, and which is just roughly, you may have heard of these, connecting with others, being active, so maybe doing creative things indoors or outdoors, just taking notice, mindfulness, being in the space, keep learning, things we can share with one another, hobbies, whatever, and giving. So we don't want to see people as projects to be fixed. This isn't about fixing as such. This is about walking on a journey together. So this is about, you know, yeah, we call it a cafe, but actually tea and coffee is available. Anybody can get up and offer a drink to somebody else. Anybody can show something that's their interest, their hobby, their passion to somebody else. It's not about us, the workers, them, the recipients, if you get me. It's about journeying together and signposting when more input perhaps is required.
And I've seen that I think it's really important that people have a space that they can just chat to other people. And obviously at the food bank, it's very difficult when under time constraints to get the food out. And I've seen Janet's put in the chat asking for your details. So if you could share those, and what can you remind me, what's the time scale of opening up the cafe?
Okay, so we're hoping to get launched in September, but we don't have an actual date as yet. We imagine it will start very small. In other centres that have done this, it has started, you know, with just 1 or 2 coming in, and then gradually as word gets around, things grow. That's the plan at this stage. And myself and 2 others are doing training towards it. Sorry.
The good thing about this forum, you can always keep joining each month and updating, or send me any information as soon as you know more about opening dates, and we'll make sure that we get the word out there.
Brilliant, thank you. Yeah.
Has anyone got a specific question for Francis? I've just got my eye on the time, but if anyone's got a quick question for Francis. No. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining. It sounds a really great initiative, something that's definitely needed in the borough. So yeah, I look forward to hearing more about how that progresses. But yeah, it's very simple but very much needed initiative.
I think simplicity is the key. Actually, that's the we aim not to get it to become complicated. That I think is the main thing, that people sometimes won't want to necessarily even talk. They can just come and sit and be. Yeah.
So next on the agenda, we've got Keely from Mind talking about a new initiative, Safe Space. Hi Keely, thanks for joining.
Hi, Toby. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. So this is the first meeting that I've come to. So sorry if I'm repeating some stuff you've already heard about the Safe Space. But I'm the service manager for this new initiative that we've set up with West London NHS Trust and obviously Mind. So what we offer is quite similar to Francis's initiative, actually. So we offer a safe space across all 3 boroughs, so Hammersmith and Fulham, Ealing and Hounslow. And it's a place for anybody to come who they feel they're in a crisis or they're reaching a crisis point. Now, it's not for us to decide whether someone's in a crisis. You know, there's a whole continuum of what a crisis can be, and everyone can be in a different crisis or can kind of experience different things. But what we offer is kind of just a safe space for people to come, to freshen up, to have a cup of tea, to engage with our support workers and our team managers, whether they want to kind of have an intervention, looking at support plans, safety plans, looking at triggers, looking at kind of what works for them and what doesn't work. Or they can just come and just relax and engage with kind of solo activities or group activities. So on site we have mindful colouring, we have coping boxes, we have stress tools, we're looking at getting audio books in. So we have lots of different kind of activities that people can engage with. And we're also looking at putting on planned activities throughout the months. So we're looking at chair yoga, deep breathing exercises, anything that kind of the clients want, and we'll kind of pick up and see how we can adapt that within one of our activities. If we feel we're not the right service for the client, obviously we do de-escalate crises, but if we feel that it's beyond our scope or they need kind of more specialised mental health support, we have really good links with the local CAT teams, so the crisis and assessment team. So we wouldn't hold a client if we don't feel that we're the right service. We would escalate that to the CAT teams or to the emergency services if needed. But the whole idea of the reason why our service was set up to avoid that, because as we know, lots of people end up in A&E or they end up in police custody, and that's not the best place for people in a crisis. We need to kind of support them, look at them holistically and see what's led to that point, and also look around prevention and how we can avoid that from happening in the future. So at the moment we're running, we're 365 days a year, so we're all throughout the year. And we're open between 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. But our staff are on site until 1 a.m. in the morning. So at the minute we're offering drop-in sessions for clients between 6 and 8. So anyone can drop into our 3 sites, and I can drop some information in the chat after this session. Or if a client feels they want to have an appointment and have like protected time and a one-to-one with one of our staff, that's absolutely fine. That's between 8 p.m. and 11. So if you guys as professionals and referrers, you have anybody, absolutely refer them in or kind of discuss our service with them and they can drop by. We also offer virtual appointments, telephone appointments as well. And actually last week we had a client who was agoraphobic and she couldn't come out from her house. And she really wanted to engage with our services. So we were able to offer her a virtual appointment and then send her an activity pack in the post. So we sent her kind of coping boxes and kind of looking at how she can make those herself so she feels a bit more kind of de-escalated and a bit more safe. I think that's pretty much it covered. I don't want to take up too much time, but I'm open for any questions and I'll put lots of information in.
Where the 3 sites are?
Oh yeah, the most important question. So for H&F, it's at our office, 309 Lily Road. For Ealing, which obviously will be for this group, it's the Lodi Centre. So I think probably quite a lot of you are familiar with that. And then for Hounslow, it is Age UK, so the Southfield Community Centre.
Okay. And yeah, if you want to send any information to me and then I can forward it to everyone. Anyone got a question for Keely? No, I don't think so, but that sounds great. Thanks for that overview. Yeah, another very well, much needed service. I think the more and more that we're kind of starting to build up these face-to-face drop-in sessions, it's just so desperately needed at the moment. So the more of those, the better. So that's great. Thanks, Keely. So I'm just looking at the agenda, and I've messaged Giles because we are kind of running a little bit short of time now. And so Giles is the head of innovation and partnerships at Hestia, and I didn't really want to kind of so much to him to talk about with Hestia. So he's kindly agrees to come to the next meeting, and he's going to talk then instead. So thanks for that, Giles. So the next organisation on the agenda is Diversity Radio. Again, really interesting to have something like this that people can tune into. So Frederica, are you on this call? Frederica? No. Oh, what a shame. Just going to scroll through and check there's no one kind of left in waiting rooms or anything. That is a shame. They are based in South London, and it's a radio station that provides support for anyone facing mental health issues. And I was really keen to find out more. But maybe Frederica can come to the next one. So I'm going to go back to Giles, who I just said I didn't. Could he come and talk on the next one? But maybe he could just give us a bit of an overview. Giles, is that all right with you?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, of course I can. Okay, so a little bit about me. My background is that I've worked within the NHS for about the past 13 years and been involved in service redesign and service design in terms of business development, tendering for new opportunities. I went from there into a private sector health provider and was involved in they were jointly owned by an American healthcare company. So I had the opportunity to go over to America to see how the Americans provide the primary care and secondary care and social care aspect of it, and brought all that information back. But one thing that was missing that I particularly felt at the time was social care, and it was bringing all my experience and contacts and skills and all that sort of stuff into social care, and joined Hestia a few months ago now. Now Hestia within London, they've been providing services for the past 50 years. Their core business is, I would say, domestic abuse and modern slavery. However, for the past couple of years, they've been more heavily involved in crisis cafes and coves throughout London boroughs, offering a safe space, obviously, to talk about your current situation. But one thing Hestia have wanted to do is to branch more into the health side, or services that are particularly commissioned from the NHS, hence bringing me on board. And I saw by default, really, Toby providing a webinar on YouTube, and emailed him and said, look, can I become involved in this? We're within London, we're becoming more and more active within Ealing and Hounslow, and certainly northwest London. And thought I'd come along, one, obviously to introduce myself, but to look, as I've seen the opportunities coming through, it's more and more obvious to me that we need to partner in consortiums and do joint providing in terms of these services. So it wasn't an underhanded way of trying to get myself introduced to yourselves. It was just to see whether making friends and contacts, really, and networking as we go forward. We are becoming more and more involved in providing health services, mental health services, without any clinical intervention at all. and it's lovely to hear all the different organisations talk so far about what services you can offer. And that's me, really, so far.
Okay, thanks, Giles. Anyone got a question to Giles about Hestia and future partnerships? Anything along those lines? No? Okay. Well, thanks for that update, Giles, and thanks for joining us. I hope you continue to attend these sessions. It's really valuable.
I will do. Yeah, will do.
You attending. Right. So before we start some training, well, it's not training. It is. It's about universal credit and PIP. Now we don't really, and this is something we're doing new for this session because we know that there's so many. Oh, someone's asking what's the best way to contact Hestia. If Giles, you could pop your details in there.
Yes.
So we're going to run this session. It's going to be valuable to everyone, but it's primarily we're going to run this. Well, Dipesh is very kindly going to run this for social prescribers because, wow, I mean, social prescribers need to know so much in terms of signposting and information about benefits, and a lot of people out there needing to claim benefits and to know a little bit about universal credit and PIP is going to be so valuable. So we're going to do that in a second, but before we start that section, we're going to do a 60-second survey. And I know everyone thinks, oh, survey, boring, but this is really to help you because I can introduce people to so many other people at Ealing and Hounslow CVS if groups need information about safeguarding, or if you're a group, you're interested in extra funding, or you want to start a group. Ealing and Hounslow CVS has so many different areas, and sometimes we get a bit concerned that, you know, I'm running this meeting and we could be helping you in other ways. So if we can just take 60 seconds now, I'm going to drop my survey in the chat. If we could all do it really quickly, just to make sure that we know that we're helping you. And I'm going to then pass on all those details to my colleagues. So I'm going to drop the link in the chat right now. And if we can all take a second to answer this. Obviously, it won't be relevant to everyone, but it's just some kind of feedback on this session. And of course, this really helps because Ealing Council fund this, and it's great to show them what people think of this session. And yeah, there might be so many different areas that Ealing and Hounslow CVS can help other groups. So if you can all just take a second to complete that. I'm sorry if you're having to replicate information, your name and contact details, but like I say, I do pass it on to other colleagues who can then get in contact with you. So if you can just take a few seconds to do that, and then we can move on to our final section. I will also make sure I follow up with Diversity Radio because it's a shame they couldn't join today. So much to find out there, and something that's quite often overlooked, isn't it? I mean, that's so valuable to have a radio station that's really supporting mental health, and there's so many things from, you know, soothing music or uplifting music, but just having that discussion on in the background, other people talking about their experiences, and particularly in these sort of times where people are isolated and feeling hesitant to go out of the house, just to have radio on in the background supporting mental health sounds amazing. So I will make sure that Diversity Radio do come to the next session. How's everyone getting on with my 60-second survey?
Well, it hasn't come up yet.
No? Everyone else accessed it okay?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question 2 and question 3 is the same though. Were they supposed to be the same or were they supposed to be different?
Oh dear, what are they saying?
It's the one about extra support and the list is identical.
Oh, okay. No, they weren't meant to be. Bit of a glitch there, but anyway, just indicate.
It's for me. Hello, Toby. I can't see anything on the screen.
There's a link and it says https and then forms.office, and you should be able to click on that, and then there's a survey.
All right then.
It just
Okay,
came with a blank
I'm
page.
It came up with what? A blank page?
Yeah.
Maybe it's kind of blown its brains that everyone's clicking on it at the same time. Oh well, we can always tweak these things, but it's just good to be able to. Thank you very much for the people who are doing it. Right, just let's see. Thank you for completing it. Yeah. Oh, is Mystery? Is that your first name, Mystery?
Hi, no, it's Dipesh, but everyone does call me Mystery. So
Yeah, I
you
saw it
can
popped
either
up.
call me Dipesh or you can either call me Mystery. Either way, I've been called worse. Don't worry. Can you hear me all right? I'm using some new headphones I've never used.
Yeah, I can. Thumbs up from everyone if you can all hear Mystery. I can. Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for completing the survey I just said. So, yeah, if you could just give an overview about Universal Credit and PIP to everyone. And I am recording this. I know a lot of people said, oh, if they couldn't join, could I share this afterwards? So I will be doing that. But yeah, if you could give an update, be very much appreciated.
Okay, so thanks, Toby. First of all, just want to say thanks for having me. I think it's my first meeting. I'm sure I'll probably join some other meetings with you guys in the future. Now, I'm aware of the time. I know I've got UC and PIP. There's 2 presentations. Okay, it's quite a lot to get through. So if we manage to only get UC done, I mean, is this something that you do quite on a regular basis or a weekly basis? So I might have to come back and do PIP, but I will try, obviously.
Yeah, we run this session once a month. That's a really good idea. If we're over time, then come back, please. That would be great to come back to PIP another time.
What I will do when I do finish, I'll send you all, the slides and any notes, and it'll have the PIP stuff in there. And then what I'll do, if I don't have time today, we'll book an hour or half an hour next time, so I can really go into PIP. But I can start setting you up with the info. But I mean, I am gonna try. If there's any questions you want to ask on the way, just ask. Okay. So I'll be honest, it's one of my first sessions. Okay, I'm new to the role. I don't know if you met Colin Morris, my previous colleague.
Oh yes, everyone knows Colin.
I mean, the guy's a legend, and I keep begging him to come back. I spoke to him the other day. Big shoes to fill, but no, he's been amazing. So he's taught me everything possible. So like I said, if there's any issues and I get stuck, I'll just shout or let me know. But I'm sure we'll be all right. But like I said, I'll send you out everything when I finish. So I'm going to make a start quickly. Okay, let me just share my screen. Right, can you all see that?
That's great, thank you. Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
brilliant.
Yes.
Okay, so what happens now is obviously it's really weird. I can't see you guys, but you can probably see me. So we're going to start here. So obviously, welcome to this. And I don't know if you guys know anything about UC and PIP or have got claimants or customers, then clients that have, all sorts of different situations and, needs and health conditions that might need this sort of support. So this is a brief outline, and I'll explain as obviously like the slides as I go through. And also you can share this if you need to. Okay, so let's have a look. Right. Okay. So universal credit. Okay. So here we can see what's it all about. Okay. So you can see it's 6 different benefits combined into one. It's all rolled into one. It's about in and out work benefit, focus on earnings, not hours. There's a lot of people that know that previous JSA, benefit. There was a rule about the 16-hour rule that it caused issues where if you worked over 16 hours, your claim would get closed and you'd have to open another claim. you know, things have changed now with people that, you know, have got 0-hour contracts, and, you know, hours fluctuate. So, you know, there's no 16-hour cutoff anymore. Now, as you can see, I'm just going to ask you lot, you know, got a little quiz here, little question. You see, you've got JSA, tax credits, housing, income support, child tax credit, ESA. Can anybody see what's missing out of that? No? Anyone going to have a go?
Disabled living?
Pardon?
Disabled living?
No, because that's kind of
Job
covered.
seekers? Job seekers?
No, that's in there. So,
Oh, is it?
right.
I can't see very well, sorry.
No, it's all right. Okay, so the only other thing, okay, so obviously if you claim UC, all these things are rolled into one, but the only other thing that extra that the person might need to apply for is the council tax reduction. Okay, so if you're on universal credit, anyone that's on universal credit or claiming or making a claim, when they actually fill out the form online, there is a little button that says on the declaration that if you wish to claim the council tax reduction, you can click a button and the UC claim, and, you know, would automatically, you know, arrange that for you. But if you've got anyone that's going to claim UC and wants a council tax reduction and has pressed that button, I would recommend that they even, you know, they call the council or local authority just to sort of let them know that, you know, I have claimed UC and I do need a reduction. And I think that's pretty valuable. And, you know, I think there's data shared, and, you know, between the local authority and a job centre, and then it's always, no one's ever been refused a council tax reduction on UC as well. So it's a great service. Now we've got stuff here about earnings. There's something called a standard allowance that everybody's eligible to on universal credit if, you know, if your claim's okay, and it's earning based. So if you start working part-time or have earnings and you're still claiming UC, what happens is there's a reduction after the taper rate, and if you earn anything over your standard allowance will be, you know, reduced by 63 pence on every pound. And it sounds bad, but it's not, because obviously you've still got your earnings and you've still got an element of universal credit payment, so you're actually better off. And it doesn't matter about hours. You know, one week you can do 5 hours, and next week you could do 35 hours, next week you could do 0 hours, and you would never have to report your earnings unless you're self-employed, and you don't have to report your hours. It's all picked up automatically. So you've got further information here. You've got, obviously, we've got universal credit. There's a link there if you want to follow that. There's, you know, an in and out depth of, you know, explanation of, you know, all the benefits and what it can affect. And there is a benefits calculator there as well, you know, within that link, and that's great. So if anyone's going to make that transition from a different benefit or first time claiming UC, you know, it's worth getting them onto the calculator and just sort of have a play about figures and just sort of see where they are. Okay. Everything on the calculator, it's an approximation. It's not actually set in stone. They wouldn't know until they actually make the claim, but it's really close to universal credit figures anyway. Okay, so here we go. It's about the difference in universal credit and your previous legacy benefits like job seekers allowance. The way it works is it's paid monthly. There's one payment every month directly to the claimant or the customer. It's, you know, there's a contract involved, which is a claimant commitment. It's a flexible contract. The way it works is if you're going to claim universal credit, you're asked at first, are you able to work? If you are able to work, you know, you're required to at least look for work for 35 hours a week, unless you've got obviously childcare, health conditions, or any other needs, you know, and that can be adjusted. So for example, if someone had, you know, childcare issues and they could only work part-time, we would tailor that commitment to that need. And if the next month they changed and, you know, they could get more work or wanted to change their circumstances, we could do that and then tailor the commitment around that. You know, there is a period which is called an easement, which is great for new claimants. So if someone's claiming UC the first time and they need 2 weeks to adjust or get fit notes for a health condition if they're going to declare, a health condition. If they've got someone like, for example, I've worked at prisons in the past that have come out of prison from day one, made a claim. And basically what I could do is on their commitment, switch it off for a couple of weeks. That gives them time to adjust to the community or get bank accounts going, or, register to doctors or any other support groups. And then we would have an appointment with the customer and just sort of see if we're ready to switch it all back on. If the claimant doesn't accept the commitment within 7 days of making a new claim, the claim would automatically close and they would have to make a claim again. Okay, so it encourages work as well. I mean, it doesn't matter which way you go around on this wheel. So I'm going around in different ways here, but it doesn't matter. Okay, but it encourages work. Like I said, it's about the earnings and not the hours, and it can fluctuate. So if your earnings go down, UC goes up. If your earnings go up, your UC might go down. But either way, you're supported. Full-time work search, like I mentioned, that can be adjusted. People that obviously can't work due to health conditions or other needs, they don't have to do that. So it's not like everybody has to look for work. It's tailored to the individual, which is great. And it's an in and out work benefit as well, where, like I said, seasonal work sometimes and different needs. I know people that work sometimes because of childcare or custody issues. Or temporary contracts. There's a lot of that going on now, so it just gives you that safety net in the background. There's that financial support there. Okay, so there's all sorts of links here and help that's available. So YouTube's great. I've used YouTube for universal credit and looking at things with people as well, and it's amazing. I think there's a 20-minute video on this link, so if you click that, it'll go through the whole process, and I think you can see the whole form from start to finish, and it'll let you know exactly what's needed, what information's needed, how the statements work, anything to do with the online service and contact numbers. It's all there, but it's worth looking at if anyone's a bit apprehensive about making a new claim and they're all a bit worried about doing it. It's a great link and it's all free. Okay, so vulnerable claimants. Right, now, the thing I should have mentioned as well is that universal credit, it's completely a digital service, okay? We try and promote this online service that uses passwords. You can use a smartphone, a tablet, a laptop, but in the real world, and we know that not everybody has access to, online services or computers or has a smartphone. Some people can't, afford these devices or just can't do it because of obviously they might have a health condition or a learning difficulty. But there is support in other routes. You can make a claim, which is called a telephone claim, by calling the universal credit number. Okay, and what I'll do is when I send you out the slides, I'll put in the service centre number for universal credit, and I might actually put it in the chat as well shortly. But if you've got a pen handy, it's 0800 328 5644. That should be put into this slide, but I will, like I said, add that on. We've got computers in the job centre now that if anybody can turn up, you don't have to have an appointment. We've got a bank of computers, web access devices that you can help make a claim, keep an eye on your claim, or use it for job searches. People that might have illnesses, or mobility issues, or just can't get to the job centres, there is a home visit available. Now, I know during COVID that did stop for a bit, and I know it's coming back slowly, and there's probably a little bit of a backlog. But what I will do is keep an eye on it, and when it comes in properly, I will let you all know somehow that obviously home visits are available and how to go about it. But I just think we're just waiting for the next lift on the restrictions of the lockdown so we can go in properly to do it. We've got something called, obviously, help to claim service, citizen advice, and now, helping job centres, and we've got, a provision with them where they actually got dedicated staff that do the help to claim service and give advice, and they can actually help someone make a claim if someone needs that support, and that guidance. It's there. All citizens advisors are doing it right now. Okay. And what I say to everybody is that everyone was skeptical about job centres being open right now. We are open. So if nobody can get to a phone or nobody can get to online, services, walk into the job centre. We've got amazing front of house staff that will help with anything and support. We've got the computers. They'll sit down with you and help you make a claim or log onto your claim if you need it. And obviously you've got other, services like Dragon, Zoom Text that help. We've got hearing loops for people in job centres. We've got ramps. It's all disabled access. So it's inviting everybody in. There's no reason that nobody can get into a job centre for any assistance or help. Okay, so here's an example of a claim being made from day one of being declared online. And the easiest way to look at this is basically the red line is, say if it was you or your customer or client, that's what they're going through, and anything underneath in blue is what Universal Credit are doing. So we're using the date here of the 1st and the 10th. So the person makes a claim, all the information's recorded. We then go, there's a period of 30 days, 31 days where we are calculating, having a look at, verifying tenancy agreements, verifying bank accounts, maybe, arranging the claimant commitment to be agreed. So that gives us a bit of time. Then we add on another 7 days, obviously, to calculate any income, if there's any earnings from any, work, or if there's any other benefits that need to be paid, like child credits, child tax credits and stuff like that. So 7 days after that calculation, the claimant receives their first payment. Here we've got a date of the 7th of the 11th. Okay, so there the payment's been issued. So everyone's happy. We've done our work. Person's got their money in the bank. Then the same process falls again in the same time period. And as you can see, the second payment here, it's actually paid on the same date, 7th of the 12th, just a month later. And that's really important because what I'm trying to show here is that the date that the payment is given to the claimant, it will never change. So if you make a claim and your payment and you're told your payment is on the 4th, that means that your payment every month would be on the 4th of every month. Universal Credit and DWP, we don't change the date. There's been so many requests from people that want the dates changed, but we do not change dates. It's never happened. So if anyone's going to claim UC and they've got bills or they've been paying certain things on certain direct debits at a certain date, the best thing they can do is obviously contact their energy providers and their bills, and to say to them, look, I've got this new thing going on and my payment dates change. And I'm sure that a lot of companies do change their payment dates. So a lot of people ask here about the first date of claim to the first point of claim, whether it's declared to the first payment. There's no payment there, but there's this amazing advanced service that we have. Okay, and from day one of anyone making a claim, we offer an advance payment, which is an advance payment of their benefits, which is sort of calculated towards their averagely of what they would probably get, on their first payment. And the way it works is you can make a claim, you've got to wait, a month for your payment. So we can give you some money on the day, and what will happen is that every time that person gets paid from their Universal Credit, we would agree a short amount that we can deduct to pay it back. There's no interest. It's not like they have to have a credit check. It's it's a government fund, and it's basically there to help and support people that are might have rent payments to pay, and might have just moved and might have to pay a deposit. So, and people have got to eat and feed themselves and their families, and that's there. But if they do take that during their claim and there is another emergency, we have something called a budgeting advance, which is a shorter amount, and that's usually for emergencies, or let's say, for example, someone's fridge is broken or they need some travel costs, maybe they're going to start work, we can use it for that sometimes as well. But yeah, it's a great service that we've got there. It's an example of a payment statement that someone receives online. Okay, we've got here the period that they've worked out the payment from the 11th of December to the 10th of Jan. There's a standard allowance that's gone up now. It's actually 327, I think now, and there's payment here of housing. It says on here, as you can see, the housing is actually 543, but we might be only paying the local housing rate here. So, you know, that could be less because of that. It's not the case of everybody. You know, there's different situations for different people, and everyone's payment would be different. So as you can see, there's a payment here of 72579. Now, anyone claiming UC, and in future, I'm going to change this slide and I'll keep you updated, because at the bottom of this statement, a lot of people miss out. There's these two plus signs, and they just look like they're printed on the page, but they're actually expandable. And it's great because if you actually if you had a statement and you clicked on that plus sign, the first thing that will come up is the other stuff that you might be entitled to, whether it's NHS prescription costs could be covered, or you know, we could pay for, you know, there's prison visits and stuff like that. If you've got family members in prison, we can pay towards prison visits, but the health cost is the most important one. People that are, you know, going to the dentist or getting the, you know, opticians or getting prescriptions, they need to read on that, because it will say to them whether they are entitled or not. And they could actually take a print out of this, either from, you know, print it out from home, or we can go into the job centre and get it printed out and present that over the counter into a chemist or a doctor's appointment to say, look, you are exempt from any charges here. So, you know, that's great. And like I said, a lot of people, we do get a lot of calls from, you know, claimants that saying, look, am I entitled? We do need to make that a little bit easier, and I think that will change in the future, but it's literally just, it's all there on that statement. Okay, so like I said, there's vulnerable claimants and something called alternative payment arrangements. So this is usually for people in the private rental sector. What happens is we have a lot of situations where people are not able to pay their rent directly. When you're paid UC, it's one lump sum. That person has to basically budget their costs and their money. So you might have to pay your rent, you might have other bills to pay, you've got your council tax, you've got your other things, you know, bills to pay, you've got, you know, food and phone bills. But there are people that get paid the money and basically they don't pay their rent, and it gets them into arrears, or they've hit arrears before, or they've made a claim and they've, you know, got arrears for at least 2 months. They could be facing, you know, eviction, or they could be, you know, facing all sorts of bailiffs at the door and all sorts, and they might have problems with managing money. So we've got a few examples here. We've got homeless people, we've got people with mental health conditions, people that, you know, have a history of rent arrears. You know, it could be alcohol dependency, drug dependency, a family splitting up, or someone that's gone through domestic abuse. So what we can do here is basically we can arrange for the payment to go directly to the landlord. Okay, so what happens is when that person gets paid UC, on their statement it will show a deduction of their rent cost, but it will show that we've paid that directly to the landlord, so they don't have to worry about that, and it takes that stress off. And it's great for people that have, you know, issues with budgeting and personal budgeting support, that, you know, that we do offer budgeting support as well at every appointment. You know, every claim that's done, every person that we see, we give them a money advice service leaflet, and we do ask them if they do need personal budgeting support. And we have a fantastic support there that where we sometimes get someone in the job centre will look at, you know, the issue and actually try and help them. So that's great, and it's got two different tiers here, but I wouldn't worry too much about tier 1 and tier 2, because since COVID and that situation, there's a lot of vulnerability going on. So that does happen, and we do get landlords contacting us directly to get these set up, because obviously they might not be receiving their rent, or they could be, like I said, facing eviction. But for a landlord to request the alternative payment arrangement, the person has to have 2 months of arrears already, you know, or facing 2 months of, you know, of arrears to get that set up. And it's really easy for us to do. Okay, explicit consent. Now, this is something you guys will come across a lot if you're dealing with someone with UC or anything else that you're probably dealing with. And, you know, it's about data sharing, and it's about that consent and that trust and that privacy. So a lot of people think, obviously, if someone gives consent that, so Joe Bloggs can assist me today and help me with an issue, that covers everything, but it doesn't. The way it works with DWP is that you have something called a journal, or you can go into a job centre or make a call and say, look, it could be someone from the support group, it could be, a friend or a family member, it could be, a key worker that might need to assist and support the claimant, but we need that consent. Okay. I would recommend that it's done by journal, that it's a little note you can put on your universal credit claim straight to the work coach or case manager that says, look, I've got someone here who's so and so is helping me with a housing cost issue. They work, this is their name, they're either live with me or they're from this organisation. If they've got any contact numbers, I'll leave that there as well. But if another issue was to arise in a couple of weeks' time, and it was, let's say they needed to change their bank account details and they needed help with that, we would need a consent again in writing, preferably, to help us, get that support. So it's not just send the consent and it'll cover everything. For every little issue that anybody assists and supports with, we need consent for that issue, and we need to be told exactly what it is for and who it is that needs, to help. And that's the only way DWP will actually, help be able to help them go forward. And it's not that hard to do. These things take a couple of minutes, and it's great. So claimants that are receiving housing benefit, something called a housing benefit runoff. So they don't have to do anything. So you've got people now transitioning from the previous housing benefit, payments that go on to UC, where it's paid directly to them now or direct to the landlord. But with with the transition, like I mentioned, from the date they make that claim, the payment date might change for their rent, to be paid on. They could be in a previous agreed date, they've been paying their rent, and now it's going to change, and it could be a week later or a week earlier. So what happens is, what UC do automatically is they actually issue a housing benefit runoff payment, either directly, to the authority, or to the claimant if they are paying the rent themselves, and that's just to cover any gaps. Okay, and if there is any shortfalls, that covers that. If not, they still get to keep the money, and they don't have to apply for it, and it's only paid once, the first time they claim UC. So somebody made a claim, received the housing benefit run on, or the housing or local authority received the run on, and that claim closed, and they made a claim again, that run on payment, it wouldn't be issued the second time. Okay, so it's a one-off payment. If they don't need to pay rent with it, they can actually do what they want with it, which I think is a nice little bonus. Okay. Severe disability payments. Okay, so we've got the severe disability premium here. Okay, so this is quite confusing to some people, and I found it quite confusing at first. And the way I can break it down in an easier way is just basically saying that, there's an element which is called the severe disability premium, and it was probably paid with, previous and benefits or different elements of different, let's say I think it was on attendance allowance, or people that were receiving carers allowance and stuff like that. They were receiving a different element. What would happen is, if they made a claim for UC or transitions before that date, which is the 27th of January, they would probably lose that element of SDP. And so what would happen is not a lot of people were claiming universal credit because they were worried about losing that element. It could be a short amount, it could be a high amount. So after the 27th of January, what happened there was DWP decided, okay, that's not fair. So we've got a transition element. So anyone that has SDP before and makes a claim after the 27th of January, they don't lose that element. It's transfers over, and it doesn't affect their UC payments. Okay, it's not another income. So obviously, those people only make that claim if they really need to. Okay. There's more information there at the bottom. There's another link. There's loads of links on these slides. They're worth looking at. if someone is, going through that or making that change, or they need that advice, it's all there. Okay, so we have other links here. gov.uk. It's amazing. I mean, I'm a work coach in the past, and I use this quite a lot, and I love this sort of online service. It's so easy to use. The links are there. It's got all the information about different things. I mean, the main stuff I've been looking at in the past is the free school meals entitlement. You've got families that are starting. There's the 35 hours a week available. You've got the benefit calculators there. It's worth looking at. It doesn't take long. Obviously, go to Google, put that in. Get yourself familiar with it. If you need any more help with that, you can always ask one of us from DWP, contact the partnership advisors. If you guys need any more sessions on PIP or UC for your own individual, offices, just let us know, and we can arrange further sessions. I'm kind of mindful of the time, so that's the UC session briefly and quickly, and I hope I haven't confused you all. Any questions?
That's great. Thank you very much. And if you can send me that presentation, I can send that round again. So anyone got any questions for Mystery?
No.
Can we have a session on PIP another time?
I mean, the
Great.
PIP, the reason I wouldn't, I think it would be better for you as well. The PIP one's a really good session. And, if I can go through it without, sort of rushing through it, and I can explain about the component payments and stuff like that. And I can do it probably as soon as you guys want to do it. I'm pretty for the next few weeks. I've got a bit of space there.
I know a lot of people. Yeah, I know a lot of people who've had their PIP stopped this year and had to sort of appeal and things. And so it would be helpful.
And it does cover that. And to get a really good PIP session takes at least 45 minutes to an hour to go through. But I am attached to what I'm sending out today. There will be the PIP slides that I will be presenting, but obviously when I talk about it, I can go really into it and in depth with it. So shall I leave that with you, Toby and Paru, to sort that out? Yeah, just fire me some dates, and just like I said, we'll arrange that.
Yep,
that's fine.
What I'll do in the background, I'll keep these slides in the background so I can just sort of follow it on for you and do that for you. Okay.
Okay then. Well, it's been a really good session. I hope everyone enjoyed it and found it useful. Thanks to Peru and Maggie for introducing Mystery. And Mystery, thank you very much for doing that. Really helpful. And thanks to all our presenters. And I will be sending around all the contacts. So if anyone missed things in the chat, don't worry. I will be updating everyone later as well. So thank you all for joining, and have a great weekend, and see you all at the next meeting. See you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Bye, thank you. Thank you, bye-bye.
Bye.